In the Whole Truth About Money Hour, we have a guest who is really all about getting into alignment with your truth. Her name is Beth Grant. She came into my realm some time ago, I think thanks to this show, and her process of cash alignment really spoke to me. And I felt like it was so important for really how you're putting yourself out there in the world that I've wanted to have Beth on the show for a while. And in fact, I went and visited Beth when Craig and I were in Chicago with the kids. I went to what she calls her unmansion, and she can tell you a little bit about that. But and I went to visit Beth and took time out of my vacation to do it, again, because I feel like her work is so important to those of you that are putting yourself out there into the world and you're struggling. You're experiencing situations where you're like doing all the right things that the teachers, the mentors, the guides, the gurus tell you to do, but you're not experiencing the same results. So do make sure that you have at thewholetruthshow.com that you've put in your name and your email address so you can get a copy of the Cash Alignment Grid, and we will be sending that to you. So Beth, why don't you share with us a little bit about your experience of not being in alignment from this cash alignment perspective and what the impact of that was on your life so that we can get some perspective on your journey.
Sure. The people in my community have heard about my journey, and it was a really rocky road. My first year that I was in business, I was really I ended up really in a poverty situation, and but I kept going because I really I'm an entrepreneur. Going back to working for someone else just wasn't really something that I wanted to do. It wasn't in alignment with who I was. So I really felt like if I could just figure it out, I was learning all this stuff and watching all these allegedly successful people and the marketing they were doing and kind of emulating what they were doing and learning in my second year, learning some tools that were supposed to convert a lot more sales for me. But I was really lost because the things I was doing weren't really working, and I was in alignment with my audience. I've always had a very loyal following. People love my content. They always have, whether it was when I was working as a spiritual mentor in my own business or now in this niche of helping transformation professionals and heart-centered entrepreneurs, thrive. But I was never in alignment with the money, and it was really always a struggle. And it just became very frustrating, and I kept feeling like there was something wrong with me. What am I doing wrong? Or, I must need to learn something. I must have missed something when I learned that marketing tool because it's not working the way they promised it would. And what happened when I did have kind of a spiritual, creative experience. Some people call it a download, in that it was really felt like an epiphany about the cash alignment grid. And it kind of all came together in one evening. I had this creative higher consciousness experience, and it came out. And I stayed up all night writing it out and drawing the grid out. And, for those who don't have the grid in front of them, what it really is there are really three different styles of people who are heart-centered entrepreneurs, and there are three different natural influence styles, which I call your personal persuasion power. And this is everybody influences people. You influence your children, you influence your spouse, you influence your customers. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, you still influence people. You influence your boss, and everybody has a natural way they do that. And it all kind of came together for me, and I got it. And so one of the things I'm so grateful for that happened that really made this come together for me was I was at a live event, and all of the people in the audience were heart-centered entrepreneurs like me, and there were two guest speakers throughout the weekend. And the first day, this guest speaker, he got up there, and he's just brilliant. He's what I call follow wisdom guides. And Craig, just so you know, my computer is muted. I hope that you're coming through okay. But he gave us this brilliant talk. It was about 90 minutes long. People were having an emotional response to his talk. They were crying. Some of the people, because they were having an inner discovery happen that he was hoping would happen. And he was guiding them through this path to discover this thing about themselves. And at the end of his talk, he used a very common live speaking sales conversion method, what we see a lot from the stage. And it was so uncomfortable. He looked so awkward, and you could tell he would rather have his fingernails ripped off than being up there using this method. It was so uncomfortable for him. And he actually had no sales. Like, nobody got up to buy his program. He had 550 of his ideal clients sitting in the audience. They're all enjoying his talk. They all want what he has, but nobody's buying. And it was fascinating and uncomfortable at the same time to watch. It was just total silence. And the next day, an equally brilliant man got up and he gave his talk for 90 minutes. And what happened next was just amazing. In 10 minutes, he made $100,000 as people tripped over themselves to get to the back of the room to buy his program. And he used the exact same sales conversion method. And I was like, that's interesting. So when the cash alignment grid came out, I remembered this experience, and I was like, oh, I get it. This guy was using something that was not in alignment with his natural way about him. Mm-hmm. He was a brilliant person. He has the capacity to transform so many, just masses of people's lives in the world. But he was using this thing that wasn't in alignment. And the other man, the reason it worked for him was because it was in alignment with where he is on this grid. So when I applied this grid in my own business, realized by this time I was making a living. I was no longer in survival. My second year I was making a living, but I was working a lot of hours to make that living, and I wanted, free time. I wanted to be able to work on my singing and my writing and, my dreams in the art, my bluegrass songs and stuff like that. So my third year, I applied this grid in my spiritual mentoring business, and within about 3 weeks, I had quadrupled my income, and I have not done a program launch, not done any of the ways you think you're going to get a big cash injection, right? Mm-hmm. And just applying the grid, applying what I learned about myself on the grid, and it actually, my income quadrupled, and I was working less hours to get that income, and that's what I would say the grid really does, is it increases your efficiency in getting the income you want. So you can either work the same amount of hours and get more income, or you can actually, if you don't aspire to be a 6 or 7 figure earner or whatever, that's fine. Maybe that's not the purpose for your business. That's fine. Then you can work far less hours to earn your living. Mm-hmm. So, and now we're talking about bluegrass. I love bluegrass. I can see the chat room, they're talking about bluegrass. I write bluegrass music and sing it, and I love it.
Well, it's so funny because all of a sudden, this bluegrass is like in my realm, and everybody that I feel really aligned with loves bluegrass. So let me ask you a question about the speakers, going back to the guys that you saw on stage, because I think that this is tremendously helpful for people. You saw these guys on stage. You saw one guy do 100,000 in sales, one guy not, but really move the audience, but not do any in sales. What if the guy who didn't make any sales had your cash alignment grid, and you had been coaching him to do it differently? What would you have said to him?
Okay. Well, the first thing is he's really, to me, in my opinion, he's in 2 boxes. He is what I call a compelling creative wisdom guide. And what that means is that his content is the driver. It's why people are attracted to him, is his content. All right?
Okay.
So that's first and foremost. And he's doing great with that. I'm on his email list. It's very content driven. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people do is they try to be the the main attractor because that's what their coach or mentor tells them that they need to do. They need to get in the spotlight and all that. Not everybody needs to be in the spotlight. People will go through an entire process with me and not know what I look like and not care. I could smell. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care what I look like. But because they like my content. But his other box is what I call a conversation wisdom guidance. That means that there's something about him that it's an influence that comes out through conversation. And I am also in that box, so I understand what he's talking about. Now, you have to understand why people buy from those two boxes.
Yeah.
The wisdom guide column, is the middle column. And that is where most transformation professionals are. And the wisdom guide column, people buy from you because they trust you. So when he was using what I call this charismatic, hard-selling kind of buy now or else type of thing, sales conversion, that really makes people run from a wisdom guide because they view it as a breach of trust. Now, they didn't view it as a breach of trust from the other man because it's in alignment with the other man.
Right.
And so they expect the other man to sell to them. They don't expect the wisdom guide. The wisdom guide is like your favorite aunt or uncle, and then start doing this. So what I would have advised him to do, he has 3 offerings. He has 2 very low price point offerings. Neither of those offerings had access to him. They were self-study offerings. The third option was a $15,000 one-on-one work with him program. So I think one was at 3 or 4. It was at 400, and one was at 600, and then one was at 15,000. So the first thing I would have recommended is that everything other than the self-study has some kind of access to his voice, to his speaking. It might be a live call once a month that he's just on it for a half hour. It might be that it includes personal video recordings with his voice or whatever. So he needs to put his voice into his sales process and into the trust-building process with his customers. The other thing was his $15,000 offer. I can tell you right now, I was sitting there, and so were all these other people going, I just want to talk to you. I really want to talk to you because people want to talk to conversation converter people. That's where your influence is. So they feel a longing to talk to you. So what I would have suggested that he do, instead of, he can even still use these same 3 offerings, but what I would recommend is that for the sales conversion on the VIP program, instead of telling them, go sign up right now before the spots are gone, which is a charismatic technique, you say, if you are feeling like this might be the right option for you, go to the back of the room, put a 10% refundable deposit down right now, just write us a check, we'll tear it up if you don't buy it, or give us your credit card number, we'll run it through, just so you have a gateway so that you're not spending your time talking to people who are not serious about what you want and really don't have the money. They're trying to get in and get some time with you. So you have a little gateway there. It's kind of like you're going to put some earnest money down, like you do on a house. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get 15 minutes with me, and we're going to determine whether this is really the right solution for you. And if it's not, it's okay. You can go on your merry way. We'll tear up that credit card slip or whatever it is. And if it is, we'll get you scheduled. And that's the more personal, trust-building engagement that people want from a wisdom guide. And I actually think he would have, I will tell you, the host, in full disclosure of what happened that day, the host of the event is highly charismatic and went up and closed all the sales for him.
Got it.
So she used the same, and she converted it, and that's just the way it happened. It's not like he walked away empty-handed because someone else took care of it for him. So what's he going to do at the next event when she's not there, right?
Right.
So that's what I would recommend. Not only is it it's just you have to understand how to use your own natural influence and allow people access to that influence, and do it in a way that's in alignment with what they want from you and what they expect from you. That's what my recommendation would have been with him if he was my client.
Right. I love that, because you're not saying don't sell if you're a wisdom guide, of course. What you're saying is you just have to learn the right way to do it for you. And what I love, Beth, about this is that you're helping people see, because this is something that came up with one of my own clients is I could see she was in my coaching program. She told me that she wanted to be like David Wolf. And if any of you know David Wolf, he's extremely charismatic. And he is what Beth would call a charismatic guru star, right? Is that the right terminology?
Yeah, I would describe him as a charismatic guru star.
Yeah. So charismatic guru star is, basically like the people you see out there. And by the way, part of why I so connected with Beth's cash alignment grid was that I saw that I have components of myself in this charismatic guru star that let me really embrace that part of myself. Like, oh, okay, internally I'm a wisdom guide, but externally I'm a charismatic guru star. And so this woman in my coaching program wanted to be doing what David Wolf is doing. But this woman was not a charismatic guru star, and she's never going to be a charismatic guru star. No matter how much she tries to make herself a charismatic guru star, it's just, to me, it did not seem in alignment with the truth of who she really was. And I told her that, and it crushed her. And I think it crushed her because she was so convinced that, no, this is what I want to be doing. This is what I have to be doing. And if I would have had Beth's cash alignment grid and I would have had Beth's information, I could have helped this woman to really see that she could still help people in the way that she wanted to, but that she didn't have to do it like David Wolf. There was a way that she could do it that would be in alignment with who she really was. Whether it's the conversationalist or what's the other way? So there's the conversation way.
Well, so there's three columns. For those who don't have the grid, just do a little tic-tac-toe on a piece of paper in front of you and put a box around it. There's a 9-box matrix. And so the three columns, the left-hand one is guru star, the middle one is wisdom guide, the right-hand one is called connector supporter, and you have an element of that in you too, Allie.
Yeah.
And the rows are your natural, I call it your personal persuasion power, just your natural influence. The top one is charismatic, the middle one is conversation, the bottom one is compelling creative. That means your content is what causes people to buy. So, or your joy is in creation. Like, that's where a lot of New York Times bestselling authors fall, is that row. So, and creators of tools and things like that. But, I fall in that row too, because I have an idea factory, all the time, and content is a big driver in my business. So it's kind of like, people, when they learn about passive income, they write up a web sales page. They learn how to do that, and they write it up. And if you're a wisdom guide, it's really, you'll be very frustrated driving people to a web sales page, because people don't want to buy from you that way. They don't like it. They don't like that from a wisdom guide. It's more like you should just be sending people there to buy it, but the conversion happens in a different way. And even the content on the sales page has to be much different if you're a wisdom guide than if you're a guru star. People will be kind of like, ew, if you're using the way most people use web sales pages. While they would still buy from someone else who that was in alignment with, they would buy from them in a second. But it just doesn't work the way that it's taught. So you have to tweak things a little bit.
Yeah. And so that's really what your work is designed to help people to do, is to, first of all, identify where they are on the cash alignment grid, and then tweak their own presentation and business model to align with that. Is that right?
I mean, that's it in a nutshell. For me, there's 3 areas that really is comprised of. The first one is, and you and I have a similar outlook on this. The first one is what I call their truth foundation. And then and that's really understanding what you want out of your business, what you want it to do for you, and where you're going, so that you can make decisions now that lead you to that outcome down the line. And then the middle, kind of the second area, the second phase, is the cash alignment grid and how to apply it and how to choose marketing vehicles use them in a way that is in alignment with who you truly are, and that kind of a thing. And then the third piece is a strategy, and that's how you make it effortless. That's what I would say, so that you're always serving yourself, what you want your business to do, and you're doing it in a way that people are responding to you. They're willing, it's so refreshing to have have my strategy set up. I'm helping people in a heartfelt way, and yet the people that I talk to, because I have a lot of conversations with people, that's what a conversation person should be focusing on, they're kind of sometimes even interrupting me saying, well, I want to be in your program. How do I get signed up? And where before it was a lot more conversations with people who were hemming and hawing or not really ready. So it's just more efficient. It flows really well. You find the right people. Your whole goal is just, I want to find my ideal clients, and here's how you're going to do it. You set up a strategy.
And are you also, I wonder, helping people at all to hone in on how to be serving their clients, or is it really from the marketing and sales perspective?
I'm helping them figure out who they're going to serve, and I'm helping them develop their content that's going to set them apart. Because even if people are buying because of you and it's not totally content driven, you need to have a way that you understand how to explain to people your process in a way that they'll understand it easily, and you need to do it concisely, and you need to kind of identify that process so that you can carve it out and you can create passive income from it. Yeah. Because otherwise you're just going to be working hour to hour forever.
Yeah.
And most people do not start a business so that they will be working with clients all day. Most people, their ultimate goal is not to work with clients all day, but to be doing something else part of the time that they're, with their week.
Yeah.
Like writing bluegrass music or performing or writing a book or, being on the golf course or going to their kid's soccer game, whatever that is.
And if they, again, if you are not in alignment, if you are trying to do your business the way that somebody else has told you to do it because it really works for them to do it that way, and they are not the same type of, what do you call it? What is the kind of umbrella for the wisdom?
Personal persuasion power or natural style?
Yeah, so if their natural style is not the same as your natural style, and you're trying to model their natural style, you're going to end up exhausted, struggling, striving, wondering what's wrong with you, as Beth talked about. That she got into this place where she wondered what was wrong with her. Craig talking about here on the chat that he is, he gets exhausted by trying to do things the way that I do them, because it's not in alignment with his natural style. And so if you're doing that, and you're modeling just a person who's not the right model for you, it's not going to work. No matter how much you do it the way that they're saying to do it, it's not natural to you, therefore it's not in alignment. Therefore, you're not going to have the same results. And you're going to find yourself struggling. And not getting
exactly what everybody's struggling, because the way I describe it is you're never going to thrive while you're marketing in someone else's truth.
Yeah.
So you have to discover your own truth. And you know what? The good news is you get to be yourself and you get to tell the truth all the time. And you never have to have that icky feeling inside. And you never have to work so hard for figuring out how to get people to buy from you. That's the mystery. Everybody spends all their time trying to solve the mystery. How do I get more people to buy from me? And that is the reason, is that, they're just not in alignment with their own truth. There's almost, let's face it, almost all of the marketing tools that are taught to heart center entrepreneurs or conscious entrepreneurs are taught by people in the upper left-hand box of the grid, the charismatic growth stars.
Right.
And I think those people actually think that their wealth and success came from the tool, but it actually didn't come from that tool nearly as much as it came from their charisma. and they're being in alignment, that tool is in alignment with their particular place on the grid.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's really about tweaking things.
That was also an eye-opener for me, because I have built my businesses using teleseminars. I did my first teleseminar in late 2006. We did $117,000 worth of sales. We went on to do about $250,000 over the next 6 weeks total, and ultimately built that business into a multi-million-dollar business using teleseminars. So I think teleseminars are amazing. I think that everybody should do teleseminars. But what you said to me when I was at your house is that actually very few people can sell on teleseminars. And I thought that was fascinating. So say more about that.
Well, I'll tell you, teleseminars are wisdom guides flop on teleseminars. What you do as a wisdom guide, or as somebody who's not a charismatic converter, really anybody who's not a charismatic converter is not going to be, they're not going to be converting many sales from the live teleseminar. So where you do it, and you're saying the words, and people while you're still saying the words, they're going to buy the thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, when we say the words, they sit there, because in order to what we do with teleseminars that works best is we use that as an engagement and trust building tool. And so then you have to understand how are you going to convert after the teleseminar, and because some sales might happen from the teleseminar live, but not very many. Most of your sales are going to come afterwards, and they're not going to come from sending pushy emails to people, which is what is a lot of people use. After the teleseminar, they'll be, hurry, because, oh, look, and get this, and, it's going away. Oh, my goodness, people can't stand it when wisdom guides do that.
Yeah.
So you develop, and that's where the strategy piece is really important, because you have to look at it from their perspective and how they view you. And with non-charismatic people, it's all about building trust and engaging them. They really want you to know that you care about them. Well, so the great thing is we love caring about people, so we set up our marketing so that they know we care about them.
Yeah, let me say this as well, because I think there's also a piece of it that has to do with who you're marketing to and where they are individually. Because I know that when I market to wisdom guides, that I will not have the same results doing a teleseminar with the same strategy if I market to them the same way that I would market to someone who's not a wisdom guide. And, if I'm marketing, let's say, to a group of, I'll call them orange meme people, for those of you that are familiar with Integral, right? Orange meme is, very focused on making money, very, business oriented, not as much in it for helping people. Although that, often whoever I'm marketing to, that's going to be a driver. But if it's not their primary driver, if their primary driver is money, then what I find is that the way that I can market to them with those strategies, that I can absolutely use the traditional teleseminar type of strategies. But if I'm marketing to the wisdom guides, the people who are primarily driven by making a difference, by spirit, that it doesn't work. Exactly what you're saying is true. I'm making my pitch, and I'm including my, okay, now you got to get it now because here's what you're gonna get, and they're sitting there, and they're not taking any action.
Well, here's the deal. The reason we all have different aspects to us inside, and we have different motivators depending on what part of us is being accessed. And the part of us that really wants that money is the ego. So when that, even a wisdom guide, when their external conditions are in a certain place, the reason I'm saying even a wisdom guide is because I was say that a lot of wisdom guides are living in their higher self more than in their ego, although they still have an ego, right? I have a part of me that's terrified and that lives day to day in fear of survival and that wants the image. I have, they want that. I have all that happen, I do, just like everybody else. And then, but the problem is that the people that are coming on your calls are the higher self with an on the spot offer like that. The higher self is like the inner skeptic is triggered. So they're like, really, and also I will tell you this: most of those people have already bought an on the spot offer from someone else and it didn't work. So that's another aspect to it.
Yeah.
Because the ego. Let's face it. Mine does. My ego wants a guaranteed. Really, let's make it happen, and it's going to be easy. Promise. And when the reason that guru stars, the way that people market is totally different because people buy from guru stars a promise. That's what they're really buying. They're buying a promise. And from wisdom guides, they're buying a path to growth. So when you market to wisdom guides, you want to really emphasize that it's a path to growth. Because that's what they want. That's what they're wanting to. They're wanting you to help them discover something. They're not wanting you to give them the answer or a quick fix. Or not that you're doing that, but it's the language that we use too.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that when people there are people in all columns, there are unethical people. And you'll notice that people who make millions in an unethical way are marketing to someone's fear, and they're promising them a quick fix for nothing.
Yeah.
And then you'll notice that people that are marketing to the more path to growth way are like, how come I can't make those millions like that as a person? Well, you're not using that method. So when you're marketing to people, and if the wisdom guides aren't taking action, because I've been in I looked at your program, and it is a path to growth. It's a discovery process.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to say, listen, do this, and you're going to be having this happen. You're really leading them through a discovery process. I would really emphasize that it's a path to growth.
Right. Yeah, and so what Beth is saying here, and what I want all of you to take away, especially those of you that are struggling with doing all the right things but not getting the results that you feel like you should be, is you've got to know yourself really deeply. Where do you fall on this grid? And you've really got to know who are you speaking to, and where do they fall on the grid, so that you can then match who you are with who they are and speak in a way that directly communicates with whichever part of your audience you're talking to. And I have to say that this is also where Integral has really helped me a lot. I was a little bit resistant to it in some ways when Craig was like, so, Integral. But it's really helped me to be able to speak directly to where my people are. Because I do speak to people on a wide variety of the spectrum, from orange to green to integral, that's kind of in all of those different levels of consciousness. And so what Beth is giving you is a clear way to see yourself, first of all, because I do see myself in all of the categories. There's, I think we all have ourselves a little bit in all of them. But to really be able to embrace yourself and say, yeah, I'm a wisdom guide. I'm not a guru star. I'm never going to be able to do that, or I don't want to do that, and it's okay. Or, yeah, I'm a connector. I'm not a wisdom guide. And that's okay too. In fact, it's great, to really be able to embrace whoever you really are, and then know exactly who you're talking to and have that match is the key. So I am going to post a link here in the chat so that you guys can check out Beth's program that she has on this. And I hope that you'll benefit from it as much as I have. And part of what Beth and I are looking at is how we can collaborate in 2012 and really link my Money Map program with Beth's Cash Alignment program, because each of them has pieces that I believe that you need to create the whole, of identifying what is the right business model for you, what is the right audience for you, what is the right way to deliver your services, what is the right way to do your sales and your marketing. And when you can bring all of this together, you no longer have to feel like you're struggling and trying to be someone you're not, or trying to serve the wrong people just because they're going to bring you the money, but really be in alignment. And when you're in alignment, it flows. It flows. You heard, if you were here with us when Beth first started sharing, how she went from poverty. And what she shared with me when I was at her home is she really was experiencing poverty, for real poverty, in a way that I haven't experienced it.
When you came to the unmansion?
Yeah, when I came to the unmansion.
I was nervous when you were coming to the unmansion, because I know that, and that was an experience for me that I had to work through, because, I live in a rental apartment in a free flat in Chicago, and I know that a lot of these people that live in La Jolla with a Pacific View, and I don't aspire to live that way. I don't want that. It's complicated to me. But I did. I was kind of like, oh my God, she's coming over to the mansion. What am I going to do? And then I was like, it's okay to be who I am. Stop it, Beth. I had to really have a talk with myself about it.
Yeah.
And then we talked about, it was pretty serious with, the poverty that I went through. And that 3 years before, I was standing in line at the grocery store on Christmas Eve, and I couldn't pay for my groceries, and I ran out crying. I mean, that was almost exactly to the week 3 years before.
Yeah.
And that's so cool that in just 2 or 3 years, I can have plenty of money, and everything's flowing, and everything's working right, and I know why, and I know how to make it happen, and I know I don't have to work so darn hard for the money that I want to bring in. So
yeah, and that is really the key is that if you are facing lack, limitation in any way, it could be because you're not truly in alignment with who you are. You don't know yourself at the level that you possibly can, and you're just trying to do it the way other people are telling you to do it. And it's not going to work for you if that's what you're doing. Craig asked a question up here in the chat earlier, and he asked where you learned all of this. Did you just make it up? Did it come to you, from spirit? Or?
I mean, I know this sounds really woo-woo, but I'm kind of woo-woo sometimes. I had a spiritual creative experience. I had a moment where I had a higher consciousness flash of brilliant download, or whatever you want to call it, when all of this came together. And I'd actually had hints of this for a couple years. Like, I had had little things that were popping up that I was like, that's weird, or just like little things I was noticing about my business and other people's businesses, and feedback I was getting from people. For instance, one of the things that people have emailed me about for 4 years now is I will get, it takes a lot for someone on your email list to proactively reach out to you. You know that. Usually they're just receiving from you, right? But
right.
They're either mad at you. When they're mad at you, they'll do it. But it's a lot to have it when somebody does it. And I probably had 100 people write to me in 4 years saying, I love your voice. I love listening to you. And I didn't, I'm a singer, so I was like, well, thanks. I guess you're something about my speaking voice too. But I didn't realize that's not the power or essence that was coming through. And that, all those little hints I was getting all came together kind of in this, almost like an epiphany of, oh my gosh, I got it. And the night that this grid came out, I went through every box and I wrote down, and I realized, oh my God, so-and-so's in this box, so-and-so's in this box. And I did your name that night. I was like, where is she? Oh, she's in at least 3. And I put you in different boxes. And I realized that there, in every box, I had at least 10 or 12 people that some of them I had met, some of them I had just was following and knew about. There were 10 or 12 different people in every box who were all highly successful people.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being in the upper left-hand box. Every box has highly successful people, and I was so glad when I saw it. And then I started thinking about my colleagues or people that I admired that I knew were struggling, who were brilliant people, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is why, and I have to share this with people. Yeah. So that's how it came about.
Well, it's great, and I'm so glad that it did come about, because it is, I think it is a missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of people. And, I see that we have a bunch of new folks that have just joined us, and I just want to let you know that you are in The Whole Truth About Love and Money, that you can find us at thewholetruthshow.com, and I'm here with Beth Grant, and we're talking about her cash alignment process for getting you into alignment with how you're delivering your great work in the world. Not just how you're delivering it from a service-based perspective, but how you're getting it out there from a marketing and sales perspective. And what we're talking about is that when you're not in alignment, that you're going to struggle. And that if you are modeling someone who has a different natural style than you, for example, you're a connector, but you're modeling a guru star, or you're a wisdom guide modeling a guru star, or frankly a guru star modeling a wisdom guide or a connector, or any of those combinations.
I call that masquerading. There's a lot of guru stars right now who are masquerading as wisdom guides, and they should just be the guru star.
Oh, I want to talk more about that in a moment. And so if you're doing any of those things, you're not going to have the results that you want, and that you can get into alignment. And if you are new to us here, we are going a little bit over our time today because we got started a little bit late. So you can feel free to check in, just as someone named Weird Girls OK did. Yes, Weird Girls are perfectly okay and welcome here. You can say hi, and you can check in. So I want to know more about this masquerading before we wrap for the day. That there are guru stars that are masquerading as wisdom guides, and say a little bit more about that. What happens when a guru star is masquerading as a wisdom guide?
Well, I'm just going to tell the truth, because this is the Whole Truth Show.
This is it.
And I'm not going to worry about pissing anybody off, because I think people need to be aware of what's going on.
Absolutely.
When they are learning from people. There are some guru stars who, the reason I'm saying they're masquerading as wisdom guides is because they want to appeal to an audience that's exploding right now. There are more wisdom guides in the world today than there have ever been in the history of the world. I mean, there are so many people. They're en masse. They are going into this healing, coaching, life transformation business because they feel called to do that. And there are some people who are basically, they're marketers. That's their basic thing that they do for a living. And what they're doing is it's really not cool. They're using spiritual language, and they're using, I know that you guys said, not woo-woo-woo is okay, so I'll say they're using woo-woo language that we relate to as wisdom guides, or heart center people relate to. They're using the word God in or source, or things like that in their marketing in a way that is really unscrupulous, and it's really not genuine, and they're doing it to turn off your inner skeptic, because this is the language that they think you will relate to, and that they can be one of you, because people buy from wisdom guides because they trust you, and so when it is a way absolutely to gain trust. It is a way to get you to open your wallet, and I would not say everyone that is a guru star using that language is doing that to do something wrong, and unfortunately it's really hard to discern when somebody is doing it to manipulate you and when they're doing it because they are having their own spiritual experience, or they are growing, or they're becoming more conscious, but there is a lot of it going on, and they're raking it in because they have this audience of people who need help and needs to know how to make a living.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is the reality of what's going on right now to some degree.
Yeah, and
do you see what I mean? Do you see what I'm talking about, Allie?
Totally. I was at an event. Gosh, it must have been 2 years ago now. It was an event for spiritual, conscious entrepreneurs, and there was a guy there who was talking the talk. And I didn't believe it. I just could feel that something wasn't right. Like, this guy is not a spiritual guy. He's totally about making money. And it just made me feel not good. And this is a guy who, throughout the years has reached out to me, and I could tell that whenever he's wanting to connect with me, it's because he wants to sell me something. And I didn't have really good radar in the past for people who were just wanting to get close to me because they could see that I was making a lot of money and I was a good source of, maybe I would be their next client. I didn't have good radar for that in the past. I didn't have good discernment myself. But even though I didn't have good discernment with this guy, I totally did. And I can still see it to this day. Like he reaches out to me when he's got something going on and he wants to sell me something. And, I would say that over the past really year to 2 years, as I have shifted myself and I, started to tell the truth a lot more, like I can't not tell the truth now. And I have really come more into alignment with who I really am. A lot of the people that I thought were my friends, they weren't my friends. They were my fake friends. I guess we were connected just for business. And I thought that we were really connected because we were connected in our hearts. And so I just really encourage you to look out for that. And I'll be honest, that before I was aware of this, and when I was super money focused, really up until about 2 years ago, there were a lot of people that I only connected with because I thought they would be clients of mine. So I'll own it for myself. I did this myself, not the faking being a wisdom guide piece, but the connecting with people only because I thought that they would bring me money. And I don't do that now. If I'm connecting with you, it's because I want to be connecting with you, regardless of how much money you're going to bring me or what it's going to turn into. But it's important for you to discern and recognize that there are people out there who they're not your friend. They don't really want to be your friend. And as soon as you are no longer a prospect, that energy is cut off. And that's the same type of thing that you're going to see with folks who are becoming wisdom guides or speaking the wisdom guide language because it's going to lead to the money.
Right. They're speaking the language, but they have an agenda, and I think that's how you can kind of tell the difference. Is that when they're leading you through something to make their agenda a reality, then that's the place where you're like, but what's going on? You have to wake up your inner skeptic, because wisdom guides are so trusting. We think everybody's brave and they're doing all the right things and everybody's ethical. That's our assumption of the world. Where other people are so skeptical, their assumption of the world is that people are going to rip you off until they prove otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And so you just have to wake up. I did an article about that. I wrote an article about 6 months ago called "Wake Up Your Inner Skeptic," and I've never received so much mail from an article before, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're right." And it is really sad, Allie, because I talk to people all the time who, there are a couple of big offenders that do this. They're really just so unscrupulous. And I talk to people all the time who tell me that they have given their inheritance to these people. They have given every penny over. They have run up debt they can't pay off. They've taken out second mortgages on their house. And it's just, wake up your inner skeptic. Because we all have an ego that wants and we want that to be true.
Yeah.
And then we all have a higher self and a an inner skeptic that we can activate at any moment and say, wait a minute, does this make sense, or what's going on?
Yeah, and so the way that you can discern is to really try to get to know someone and see what's really going on in their personal life. How are they really being in their personal life, to see if this is just a show. Email them and see how they respond to you, or if they respond to you. That's a really great way to do it. Because if they don't respond, well, give them another chance. Email again, because stuff can slip through. But like, if they respond, if it's just anyway, I say try to get to know someone and see what they're really like. And I have people do that with me all the time, and I really appreciate it. They want to see, is this just a shtick? I actually got an email from a lawyer about that the other day. She's like, I wanted to see, is this just a shtick, And people can maintain a shtick for only too long, I think. So if you just, really get to know them. That's why I loved coming to the Unmansion, by the way, Beth, because I could see who you really are. That's you. I could see what books you're reading. I could see.
I'm glad you guys came over to the Unmansion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could let you see who I really am. You can meet my kids. You can see how I am with them. And anyway, so that's what I recommend is, get to know people, see who they really are. Really look for where people are telling the truth and letting you in and letting you see not just their light but their shadow as well, because we all have one, and if you're not seeing it, something's missing.
One way you can discern a little bit by who you're following, I would say, because some of these people, their email list is so enormous that they're not going to necessarily respond to you personally. If someone is only showing you that their life is great, and that everything is like a fairy tale, and look at my house, they do a lot of lifestyle marketing where they're like, look at my house, look at me, I'm in the south of France, and this is my life now, and they don't really ever talk about or seem like they ever have any problems in their life. They're hiding something from you, and that's how one way you can kind of tell, because real people don't have lives that are fairy tales like that. They have fights with their husbands and whatever, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah, stuff goes wrong or goes off, in everybody's life. So we do have to wrap up. Beth, I want to thank you so much for being here and let you know that we're definitely, circling back around about bringing our money map and cash alignment programs together for people, because I think that they are such the missing pieces that people need to really be making these decisions. If you want more information about Beth's cash alignment program, you can receive that at thewholetruthshow.com/2012/cash alignment grid. And that is posted here in the chat as well. You will get a link to that in the recap of the show as well. And the upshot of this hour, more than anything, and the thing that I take away from what Beth is sharing with us is, in order to really do well in business and do well doing good, you need to know yourself. Deeply, honestly, know yourself, and then know who you're serving, so that you can speak to the people you're serving in the way that they need to receive you. And don't fall under any sort of delusion that you can be who you're not, or that you can market in a very specific way and reach the people that you're meant to reach if it's not in alignment with who they really are. So that's the upshot for the Money Hour. Beth, thank you so much for being here with us. And
thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been so much fun.
Yay. And I want to thank all of you guys for being here as well, the community. I love you all so much. Chatting here with you every week makes suffering through the technology challenges worth it. And Kimberly and Tanya and Jennifer and Chris and Angie and, of course, Craig, who has left us already today. And those of you who haven't said hello, next time hopefully you'll come back. We're here every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific. We did run a little over today. But next time that you'll chime in and let us know who you are, because this is an interactive show. And if you'd like to appear on the show, whether it's to receive personal coaching or to share your business with our truth-based community, you can do that at thewholetruthshow.com/application. And that's the way that you can receive coaching from me absolutely free. The only price you pay is that you need to do it publicly, but I find that oftentimes that's the best way to really get the most support and to get the most out of it, is just be truthful, be honest, show all of it, the shadow and the light. And we've got a great community here to support you. I'd love to see all of you in the Facebook group at thewholetruthshow.com/group. We have a great community happening there as well. And if you want to be a part of the show, not just on camera or on the air with me, but help out. We have lots of help we need. We are expanding. We are going to shift more into a revenue model this year, so there will be pie to share if you're into that sort of thing. And you can also let us know about that at thewholetruthshow.com/application. There's lots of roles we're looking to fill. So thank you, Beth. And
Thank you.
yeah, and thanks everybody else. Mwah!